And for this part, graphing inequalities, these four symbols are your inequalities. There's your greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and the way I remember it is your left hand makes the L and that makes the less than sign. So that's how I know that this symbol is the less than for the L on my left hand. If you have a graph that is using one of these two symbols, your line must be dotted or dashed. I like to use dashed ones just as long as it's not solid. And these two, since it is equal to, I like to think of, because it has a line, this one is going to be a solid line. So that's a huge distinction. And then since this is greater than, I think of the y-axis. My y's get greater up here, and they get smaller down here. So that's how I know that if it is greater, I'm going to shade up. If it's less than, I'm going to shade down. So I have this example. I notice it's going to be graphed the same way as the first video. This is a negative slope, so I'm expecting it to go down. My slope is rise 2, run 1, and my starting point is 0, 3. So I'm going to graph those. Starting at 0, 3, I'm going to plot that point first. This has to go down, so I have the choice of either going up 2 and left 1 to create a negative slope, or I have to go down 2 and right 1. Either way, it doesn't matter. So I say just pick a method and stick with it. Since you're taught rise over run, I think to rise first no matter what and just run in the direction that you're supposed to. Either run to the right if it's positive or run to the left if it's a negative slope. So just for consistency, I always do rise over run. I don't worry about flip-flopping these guys. So I'm going to rise up 2, and because this graph is negative, I have to go to the left one. And that is enough for me to be able to create my line. Since I don't have a free hand for a straight edge to line this up, I am going to go ahead and make another point right here just to have enough information to be able to create that line with one hand. Whoops, this is less than, so it has to be dashed. That has to happen. And because this is less than, from this point, I look for where the y's get bigger or smaller. From 3, I know it goes 4 and 5, so it's getting greater up here. And I can see, obviously, it's going 3, 2, 1. I know it's going less than down in this direction, so I'm going to shade on this side. And that's the answer to that one. The slope is the same. The y-intercept the same. It's just that since this is less than, it must be dashed. And you have to shade down. Next example is going to follow the same pattern. I have a greater than or equal to. Since I know it's equal to, I know this is going to be a solid line. And greater says I'm shading up. My slope is positive, so I know this graph is going to go in that direction. I'm going to rise 1 and run 4 to the right for a positive slope. And I notice there's nothing right here. There's no B. But in math, the number for nothing is 0. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, so if I do, I'm sorry. I feel the itch. So if I don't see anything there, it is understood to be a 0. So I know that my y-intercept is through the origin. I'm going to rise up 1 and go to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and create my solid line as best I can without having a straight edge, and I know I'm going to shade up. And that is the answer to that graph.